I'd like to thank everyone for their contributions, and just Brendan talked about town councils, and we look forward to the legislation coming to the Seanad, and the point that he who pays the piper calls the tune. Eamon talked about the starter groups in terms of the lower tier, and an idea that struck me as you were talking about that is that in Kenmare Municipal District there are 6 people elected to the council, the full council, and the concept of that the next people on the ballot paper, so if you don't get into the top 6, then the next 7 are the ones who will represent, along with the councillors who reach the quota in the top 6, the next 6 or 7 would be join them in the municipal district, and therefore now you have your municipal district. You don't need to get 1,500 votes. You can say, look, I'm going to focus on the area in Waterville, I'm going to focus on Killorglin, and I'm quite happy to be a municipal district councillor, and that gives us the democratic oversight, which I think is a good idea in terms of what's coming out of this discussion. What's the next tier? And that tier is that, but then you have people having to go to council meetings and municipal. Some people don't want to go to the council meetings, they just want to represent themselves locally. John Paul talked about the demographics not being represented, because in many instances it's retired people, it's people who are living on modest means, and unemployed people, and how do you change that, which goes back to Noel Dempsey's point about full-time councillors, and is that the way we're going? But nobody will have all that expertise, and that goes, how do you give them the expertise on financial planning and the area around environment, the area around the issues of planning itself, and about the legal advice that they're getting. They need to get their own independent legal advice, and without that they're not able to represent them. The rebalancing of powers, what we're talking about. And finally, I finish on this. This is the democratic oversight is one of the key parts. Like we have municipal districts and we have councils that are basically just administrative areas that have a veneer of democracy. What we need is to rebalance that and to give the democratic oversight. They have the powers, they're not willing to use them, because there are reasons behind that too, because if there are consequences if you push back. So they need to have the independent legal advice. As I said before, what we're looking at doing as part of this is coming to a proposal after the local elections. Senator Cassells will do a draft report, have it available for that final session with the Secretary Generals, with the leaders of the political parties who will be invited for the final session, and say, here's the proposals, here's the ideas of the members of this committee, taking on board what you have said, and we'd ask you to incorporate that in your programme for government, that the ideas that we're bringing forward here will be incorporated in in your election manifestos, and therefore into some future programme for government. Because we've had the reports, and you've all been involved, you've implemented the reports. The concern is, as the title of the committee is about the future of local democracy, we will not have people running for local government that we would have had a decade or so ago into the future if we don't change our current course of action, our current direction of travel. We need to avoid that outcome that we are all fearful of, that is happening in other countries. And your input here today has been very helpful and insightful. So could I ask